Managing partner of Kelly Austin Salesforce Solutions, joins us to talk about how to turn small and medium-sized business growing pains into gains. Hunter is here to share his knowledge on how Salesforce, it's a fabulous platform, by the way, can help businesses in various industries from finance, construction, communication, education, healthcare, and tech to scale up and maximize their ROI with their CRM. So don't miss out on this opportunity to grow your business painlessly with Hunter. So, Hunter, welcome to the show.
Sabir, thanks. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the discussion today.
So, before we get started, I would like the audience to kind of get to know you more. So, if you could tell us your superhero backstory and about you, and then how did you get into Salesforce solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is one that now a lot of people have actually started to fall into over the last couple years in terms of learning about the Salesforce industry and teaching themselves Salesforce so that they can go get a job in the ecosystem. But mine started back in 2014. So I actually have my brother-in-law and co-founder to thank for it. But he was in-house at a company where Salesforce kind of fell on his plate to be the owner. He later then went to a consulting firm that was doing primarily Salesforce stuff. And I was at a job that I wasn't really happy with doing. I was doing corporate sales in sports and entertainment sponsorships. And it was fun, but anyone who's worked in sports and entertainment understands that it's not as glamorous as it sounds. It's long hours and little pay. So Trailhead had just come out from Salesforce. And for those of you that don't know, Trailhead is a free online learning class that Salesforce provides so that people can go and learn about the different products and how to implement them from an end user perspective or admin perspective, et cetera. It's grown tremendously over the last 8, 9, 10 years. But back then it was just getting started. So they had just started rolling this out. So my brother-in-law, Waylon, said, hey, why don't you sign up for an account, get on here and see if you like it, right? Learn how to do it. You're good with technology, see if it's something you're interested in. So I started working through those at night. So I'd get home from work and from 6 to midnight, I would get on Trailhead and teach myself Salesforce until I got to the point where I convinced his current firm to hire me, right? Gave them no choice. I went and got my certifications. I proved, hey, look, I've put in the time. Give me a chance here. So I started at that firm. My brother-in-law and I worked together there. I started on the implementation side where I was doing a lot of the build out and running projects. And I quickly realized that I found myself leaning more towards the front end of the process. So meeting new customers, understanding their challenges, helping scope out those projects, opposed to like actually getting in and running the projects. I always joke that I'm really good at buying drinks and buying dinner than I am more the tech. Waylon, my brother-in-law, has always kind of been the tech side of the house. So I found myself really enjoying that side of things. But the benefit that I brought to the sales side is that I had the experience in the implementation side. So what we see a lot of times across the tech industry, but across multiple industries, is that the people selling don't understand how the product actually works too, from an implementation side. And that's the real benefit that I've brought and that our firm brings when we show up, is that even the salespeople you talk to can speak to the implementations and the products at a technical level for you. So that kind of gave us an advantage. We later worked at another firm together. I started a small business on the side outside of Salesforce, just as kind of a personal thing. It was a fitness studio. I sold that and then later found myself back in the industry. We started this firm, Kelly Austin, just shy of 2 years ago. We recently...
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I know. Tough time to build a business with COVID, but good time with technology because of the kind of jump off point. So I don't know, both good and bad. But we recently became the fastest partner to reach gold status. So Salesforce tiers their partners based on growth and certifications and expertise. So it's something we were really proud of. We did it in under 18 months. So the fastest of about 2,000 partners worldwide. So it's been a fun journey so far, and it's really cool to see the different customers that we've helped work with and kind of build out and grow and scale.
So in your bio, I read off that you work with small to medium-sized businesses, and I ask every guest that works in that kind of a segment, how small is small and what is medium, right? You're
Yeah,
in a kind of a weird spot. So how do you define what a small business is versus a? Because I have other terms too, micro
sure.
businesses and tiny businesses and side hustles.
Yeah,
To small businesses, and then you have small to medium growing, and then you have medium sized businesses, and then when do you go from being a medium to being a large company, right? It's always,
sure.
it's like, just when you, as a kid, when you know that you aced it as a toddler, and then boom, you're a preteen, now you have to worry about that, and then when you thought that you were good at being a preteen, now you're a teenager.
Yeah,
Just when you got a handle over it, boom, you're in college, and now you're post teen, you know and,
sure.
and and now you're in your 20s and you have to deal with that. I think I'm just using that as an analogy, but when you're going through businesses, each one of these stages have different pains, different challenges that you have to overcome as an owner. But on top of that, your needs as far as technology goes, right? Like partner, utilizing platforms like Salesforce, Demandware, Shopify, and all of these kind of things. Your needs are very different at every one of these stages. So, QuickBooks may have worked for you when you started your side hustle. It's no longer the right solution for you because it just doesn't cater to your needs right now as a growing company. So how do you define small business versus, and when they grow up to be a medium, and then what's a medium-sized business, and then after that, when they grow?
So there's a lot of different metrics you can use to categorize it, right? Like you alluded to, some people use revenue, some people use employee count, some people use just like how long the company's been around, right? Like even if a company's 500 employees, if it's only been around for 18 months, people could still say that's a small to medium sized business, growth business, whatever it may be. So the way we categorize it is the same way Salesforce categorizes it, because we're so tight at the hip with them. And that's by
Mm.
employee count. All right. So small to medium sized business, the way Salesforce sees it, is really between, so there's different segments broken up inside of that even. But the way I think of it is between 0 and 200 employees is how they kind of categorize SMB. And then they move up what they call commercial. So that's 200 employees all the way up to 4,500 employees. So we kind of play the way the Salesforce partner ecosystem works, in just the way people buy consulting in general, is that there's kind of in a head count you have to have as a consulting firm in order to work with larger companies, because otherwise you just don't have the bench strength or the expertise to handle all of their needs, right? So you kind of move up as the firm gets more employees, more expertise. You can move up in the company size that you work with. To answer your question, current day, majority of our companies that we work with are between 100 and 1,000 employees, but we have a great benefit of having several enterprise customers. It's not something we target because we're not Accenture, we're not PwC, right? Those enterprise firms, your AT&Ts of the world, those types of companies, right? They're mainly working with large consulting firms. But we do have some where we've got personal relationships, so we can see how they're operating and use our expertise from there, and then relay it down to the other companies we work with and say, hey, prepare for this coming, right? Like, you guys might not be there yet. It might not be a challenge today, but it will be tomorrow. And it's better if you handle it now from an architectural perspective, product perspective, et cetera. And then on the flip side of that, we've had the benefit of working with 5 employee companies, and we've seen some do really well, who either have a founder who understands technology or the benefit, and they invest in heavy up front so that they can do more with less people from the beginning, opposed to kind of hitting that 100, 200 employee mark and then saying, whoa, our processes are all in the wrong place. We're using 20 different tools. How do we consolidate now? We work with some founders who have done it before, and they get out in front of it. So we have the benefit of understanding both ends of the spectrum, even though our kind of bread and butter is that 100 to 1,000 employee mark.
So how do you believe, like, when it comes to, and I'm a technologist, I mean, I have very heavy background in technology, software development, stuff like that, right? That's my training from college, my childhood, everything like that, so I have plenty of
Sure.
that. But how do you believe that, like, technology and software like Salesforce can help small to medium-sized businesses grow without pain. Let's talk about the pain side of it. If you don't have it, let's talk about that, and then put some lotion on it with Salesforce.
Sure. So the pain that we see for the small, medium-sized businesses is that they don't have enough people to throw at the problems, right? So a lot of our bigger companies, they have issues and they just throw people at it, right? They've got the head count, they've got the hiring budget. So even if it's a problem that should be fixed from a technology perspective, they just throw people at it till they get there anyways. The small to medium-sized businesses don't have the opportunity to do that. So when you're scaling sales faster than your customer support can handle it, you've got to go to the technology side, right? Especially what we've been dealing with the past 18 months to 2 years, trying to hire in roles like that, where it's customer support. What do? You literally can't find enough people to support your clients. So then what happens? Churn with clients, poor customer experience, and it can damage your brand before you even get to 1,000 employees. So being able to solve some of those problems with technology when it comes to things like self-service, right? How do we get people more answers up front without needing to talk to someone or hitting someone before a problem even happens? So a big push for us with marketing automation is get to that client before they even run into an issue, right? These 100 clients have all dealt with the same issue. Send over an email to your group of new people, letting them know in onboarding, this issue might come up. Here's how you handle it. And then you attack it before it even happens. So it's on the marketing side ahead of times. It's self-service and allowing for that. But that's the big difference that we see is you just don't have the people to throw at some of those pains. So then the technology can really help.
Yeah, I mean, one example, and I would like you to use more examples, right? So that as we dive more into it, I can tell you from my experience, right? There was one company I worked with about 12 years ago, I would say now 10 or 12 years ago. Whenever the sales and marketing did an amazing job of driving consumer sales, right? Black Fridays, Cyber Mondays, stuff like that, right? The solution was when we didn't have enough people in the warehouse, everybody in the company was staffed in one of the aisles in the warehouse to pick, pack, and ship. Everybody. It didn't matter you were a VP, janitor, doesn't matter. Everybody was in the warehouse. Everybody was helping out, right? And this was, I would say, small to medium-sized business brand, right? So that's how, like, even though in their case, one way to handle that throwing people problem, it was not that they increased their headcount, they just shifted the people. Obviously, now you're asking, I don't know, $200 an hour VP or SVP to go pick, pack, and ship. That could be done for $15, $20 per hour, right?
Sure.
But when you're in trouble and everybody else has hired holiday help, what do you do, right? I mean, that was their creative solution of handling that. And I know I've known several brands that actually do that, but your statement is quite different, right? It's like we need to hire more people. We need 5 more people to handle this specific situation. IT says, oh, you know what? We can work on a solution. It will take us 3 months. That would do 50 people's job, and it will do it more process oriented with proper workflow. But like, oh, we don't have 3 months. We need to hire people right now because our pain is right now.
Sure. And that's where, we push people to like take a step back and think about solving the problem long term for scale purposes, right? Just hiring more people can't be the answer. So we just worked with a technology firm, fintech firm, and their goal is to double customers in the next 18 months. Okay. They had a support team of five to double customers. They did not want to have to then invest in double the support staff because it's really not one-to-one, right? Like as you go over certain thresholds with customers, that actually multiplies on that customer support staff because you've got more people, those problems tend to multiply, and then you're rolling out new features as well. So then the old customers still have issues coming up, right? So what we did is we got into their platform and built out a self-service portal where their customers can go in to their platform that they typically work out of. But then they've got this whole section around knowledge articles. we introduced Einstein. So Salesforce's product is Einstein chatbot, but just a chatbot, right? Where we're surfacing specific articles based on keywords, those types of things, doing all of these things to try to reduce this amount of human contact that's going to happen as they scale, which is smart. They're still going to have to hire some support staff, but it cuts down an immense amount and then allows your best support team to be able to do more, right? So they're really happy with their current support team. They've got really good employees, but they're over here chasing password resets and little easy things, right? Spending time on it instead of spending time on these level 2 issues that need human support. So what can we take care of level 1 with technology that then allows us to enable our really good employees to do the things that they have to do, right? Where technology just hasn't caught up quite yet. So that's what we did specifically with that company, and it's made a huge improvement.
Yeah, I mean, the people, solving problems with people, more people, right? One of the other challenges with that is that new people require training, right? They may be amazing at their previous job, but in this job, they have to have that context that the best team does because they have not worked with you before. This is their day one,
Yeah.
And until even the smartest people, you still need to train them for them to get to a level that is acceptable, not best, just acceptable,
Sure.
So the efficiency of adding 5 more people to that fintech company to because you're doubling your clients, to get double the customer support staff, your efficiency is not going to be 2x. Your efficiency is going to be maybe 65%, right? So maybe 65, 70, because over time it's going to be, because you're going to kiss a lot of frogs, even when hiring people.
Sure.
They may be great at technical skills, horrible personality. You may need to let them go. Or the other way around, they have amazing personalities, but they don't have the capacity to learn and capability of learning. So it's great that they have a big smile on their face, but they don't know the technical ability of delivering service,
Right.
that level of support to that customers. So even though you're making that people decision, doesn't mean that you'll get there faster, because that's the logic, right? If I double up my staff, IT told me it will take them 3 months. At least you're gonna actually gain more issues, that you need to solve.
Yeah.
And one, you have to hire these people, and then you have to let some of them go because they're not a good fit because you made a quick hiring decision. All of those things play into that. So it's never any of those kind of quick decisions are very bad decisions. It typically, in the long run, actually ends up hurting the company. Doesn't help it. Where you thought it would be, doubling the staff, I'm going to double my capacity.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of times the SMBs feel forced to make those quick decisions, right? Because they're typically in a race with competition or a race to get to market, whatever it may be. They feel like they've got to go way too fast, right? So it's always easier to just throw a bunch of people in here that's not a 3-month, 6-month implementation. So yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, some of the challenges I've found, like in small to medium sized businesses, has to do with a technology decision they made initially, right? When it was 5 people, Kelly and Austin, when it was just two people or 5 people, right? You
Yep.
made certain decisions to go like, okay, you know what? For now, let's use Notion, let's use Basecamp, let's use I don't know, Google Apps is fine for now. Let's just use that, right?
Sure.
Your accountant, you have a bookkeeper says, oh, you know what, I know how to use QuickBooks, so get me that. I'll put all of the stuff in there, right? So you get QuickBooks. There are certain decisions you make in the early part of your small business life that some of them lurk around, right?
Sure. Yep.
And then the problem with lurking around is you have a ton of data and content into that thing, whatever you decided, Notion or Basecamp or whatever, depending on what you needed to do. And now time comes that now you are you're not a medium-sized business yet, but you are a growing small business.
Right.
You have gone from 5 people, that those pieces of software, even though it was a nuisance, it worked, it was fine, right? Now you've gone to, now Kelly Austin is 15 to 20 people.
Right.
And certain software don't allow you to do user management or role management or any of those kinds of things, right? Now it's starting to hit you. We want specific roles for marketing people, specific roles for salespeople, specific roles for formulators and product developers, and the warehouse people need to have a very specific set of things. But the decisions you made in that early days, and now you're kind of stuck because a lot of that data is in there, right? Can you give examples of, like, because every company goes through that, almost
Sure.
every company goes through it, where QuickBooks or the online QuickBooks is not enough, and now you have to go to maybe something like NetSuite or Salesforce and stuff like that. That transition. What are some of those challenges that you face when you should know that that's a critical point right there for you as a company, for you to transition, bite the bullet and make the transition?
Yeah, so we see this a lot with professional services firms, and we can speak really well to it because we are one, right? So here's what happens when professional service firms first start, right? You need something to manage projects. All right, what do you go with? A Trello, a Basecamp,
Asana.
Smartsheet, Asana, something like that. Okay, now where are you going to bill your time? Well, maybe we'll use like a Harvest or something else, right? Because we went with Trello and you can't bill time there, or we'll just bill time in the accounting software. Okay, where are you going to manage your sales then? Okay, well, we'll start with Salesforce. So we'll start with HubSpot or something, Pipedrive, whatever it may be. And there's these different facets of the business that have to happen. And you typically just pick something and go, right? And so then we'll talk to professional services firm, working with one right now that's merging orgs because there was just an acquisition in the technology professional services space down here in Texas. And their owner, kind of the person who founded the company, built his own project management software on custom software that he built, and he loves it, right? He wants to keep it. Well, the company
That's his
now is,
baby.
yeah, the company now is 400 employees, and they're all looking at this like, how am I supposed to use this thing, And so then I'm asking, okay, that's great that you're using that. How does that tie back in? Like, how are you pushing sales there afterwards? Oh, we don't. It's just manual entry. Okay, how does it tie to accounting for like invoices and how does that work? Well, we don't. It's just manual entry and double check. And then so like you start talking through these things, and you can just hear the inefficiencies when people talk through it. And most of people know it, right? When you actually think through it, how many windows do I have open on my screen at a time, right? The kind of inflection point that I would point to that you asked about is, when do you get to an analytics visibility standpoint when you know you need this data to continue scaling your business and you can't access it? For example, when it's early on, right, you're just trying to make things happen, get sales in the door. It's friends and family, it's old business referrals. You're just trying to manage a project so it doesn't fail. You're just trying to hopefully get paid, before something's 30 days overdue. But once you hit that scale and you're like, why can I not look at these projects and understand profitability metrics, right? I need that to know if I need to hire more people. Or you look at it and you're like, how am I looking at all of our account management and I've got no clue who is overdue on payment, and I've got to go sift through this system or ask my accountant to sift through it, right? There's no way. I don't know what cash flow is. Can we hire more people? Do I need more sales? Do I not need more sales? Right? As soon as you hit that point of where you understand I'm missing it, visibility into analytics across the multiple pieces of my business because they're now all big enough to matter, that's when we typically we get phone calls and we're like, okay, now we have a problem because we've got stuff in 10 disparate systems and they all kind of work and none of them really talk to each other, right? Maybe one or two do, but the others don't. So we've just got this unconnected system. We've just got data everywhere, and really none of it does us any good except for when we're looking at it in that microscope.
You kind of reminded me of an excellent point in what you just said, right? What I see from my career, right, now of almost 30 years now, right?
Sure.
The companies that have a very technically savvy founder or co-founder, right? Very technically savvy, meaning that anything you want them to do, they'll sit down and write the Python code, PHP, Java, C#,
Sure.
Objective-C, Swift. You throw anything at them, they're fabulous, right? They'll do magic around that. That's where you have the most trouble.
Yeah.
First of all, it costs for me any of the SaaS solutions. I think that is lesser of the two evils is going with a solution that's already existing in the marketplace. For $10 a month, it gives you some functionality that's going to help you right now, maybe for the next year or two, right?
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
Pay up the $10 because maintaining that code that guy wrote, and maybe that person that wrote it, their day-to-day job is not that. Their
Correct.
day-to-day job is to be the closer for these high-profile clients. That's when they sign up the 1 million, $2 million scopes. Not that they're not available because they're fixing a code because the invoices are not getting printed, properly, right? That's
Yep.
where you have a gigantic misalignment in the organization where the person who is supposed to be closing $1 million, $2 million scopes is too busy band-aiding whatever code that they wrote, and nobody else understands that code, or because you never hired anybody else because that person was supposed to be fixing it all the time.
Yep.
So when you have that sort of a disparity, I think that's another signal. In the very beginning, I ask my clients when they sign up, because I help them with growth, right? One
Sure.
of the things that are detriment to growth is not knowing what you are supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And in most cases, I would say 99% of the time, it's what not to do list is more important than the to do list. In most organizations, there will be things like 3 things we would like to achieve this year. That's it,
Right.
3 things. If you focus on those 3 things, you will do amazingly well. If you don't focus on this list of not to do list, like literally as the owner of the company, you should have 2 lists. When somebody comes to you and says, we should be doing this, think about it. Does that fall into the 3 things we should be doing this year? No, it does not. It goes on the not to do list. And do your best and fight tooth and nail every day to make sure that it doesn't get done. you know
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
something that I've learned over my years, that like in that example you just gave, and if that was a two co-founders, right?
Mhm.
One of them is amazing at sales and marketing. That's how they met. And the other person is amazing at technology, but they run a professional services to deliver that. What is the role of that technology person? Because in most cases, that person becomes the IT support, right?
Early
And
on. Yep.
they're not doing the right thing. Like, can you hire somebody for $30 an hour to provide IT support for help desk for the organization? It shouldn't be that person. Shouldn't be the co-founder. That co-founder should be focused on the bigger fish they need to fry. Like this year, they need to close $10 million in business, and they will be the closers for it. That's their role. Even though they're technologists, they're not in sales. Maybe they need to do some kind of tech sales or something like that.
Sure. Yep. And yeah, we see we see that all the time when people come to us and it's like, okay, here's the problem. We've outgrown the ability for the founder to manage all our systems, right? Because that's what they did, right? Especially with our tech clients, where they built a lot of the platform, right? And so now they're in there trying to get all the data. Someone needs a report. They've got to go run a SQL query on it because they're the only one that knows how. Things like that. So it's absolutely another tipping point where people come to us and okay, we need actual real systems, a connected platform, because we can't focus on or can't rely on the founder just to be able to handle it all at that point.
Earlier, you mentioned fintech as an example, right? Can you share a case study of a business in the finance industry that you have helped with Salesforce? Give
Sure.
us the
So
before and after, both sides.
Sure. So I'll speak to it's kind of interesting. So insurance falls into finance the way Salesforce does verticals. So it's a kind of insure tech firm that we're working with right now. And they originally came to us. Marketing issues was a big thing for them, right? So they do small business insurance. All right. So they're marketing to these small businesses. And a lot of the issues that they were having was connecting with customers from a marketing automation standpoint post the initial sign up, right? So a lot of people think of the marketing automation just for upfront and converting leads, right? Nurturing leads, waiting till someone raises their hand so then you can turn it over to an AE. And it's great for that, right? And Salesforce has some awesome tools where we can personalize the website based on behavior and do all these cool things to be able to nurture leads from a marketing automation standpoint. But this client was struggling with following up with those clients after they signed up through the onboarding journey. And then as they go through for things like cross-sell, upsell, those types of things, right? So they're relying on the sales team to be able to go out and reaching out to these hundreds, thousands of customers and being able to speak to them about cross-sell, upsell, how are you doing, just pure account management stuff, all those things, right? So we went in and we developed several marketing automation journeys for them to where, based on behavior, based on timelines, based on like contract coming up, those types of things, where we're hitting them early with this marketing automation. We've got what's called journeys, right? Where they're going down these steps. It's 120 days before their policy's up, right? So we want to send out an email and let them know, hey, here's potential changes. Hey, have you been thinking about this type of insurance? Do you want to add it? 90 days hits, another thing happens, right? And along the way, if they're interacting with that email by clicking, maybe in that 90-day email, we speak about a certain type of insurance that they don't have already. They click that email, we've got interaction there. Now we've got sales team involved to come talk about that insurance along with the renewals team, right? And a lot of companies do sales and renewals together, but some people split it. Regardless, we're getting out in front of that, opposed to just getting to like the 15, 20-day mark and say, hey, are you renewing or not? We're talking about it early with the marketing automation, and we're pitching that upsell early, right? Trying to get involved before it just comes down to, hey, here's your price to renew. Do you want to add anything, right? That education up front. And that can span across multiple industries, obviously. But we've seen a lot of success with that in fintech specifically.
So let's change the industry, right?
Sure.
And this one, I think, has a lot of complications, at least from my view, right? And that's the construction industry. Like, let's say home construction, right?
Sure.
Home construction has, you have the contractors, you have the architects, you have the people who are actually doing the work, right? And then every bit of anything you do needs a permit, needs a license, needs to be approved. Electrical, plumbing, cement. The cement guy is late. You're not getting enough logs because we had COVID lockdown in the very beginning. All sorts of problems, and there are in your workflow as a construction company. You face a lot of challenges, right? Even a small nut and bolt that you need for the entire house is no longer available. What do? Right? You cannot bypass that, because that's the compliant standard thing that your Department of Building and the government is expecting you to have. And if you don't have it, that's an illegal structure, right?
Sure.
So things like that. There are a lot of complications. You work with subcontractors, contractors, you have your own people, then you have inspectors, and you have people who architects that draw up the drawings, and other people who actually implement it and stuff. There's a lot of workflow. There are a lot of processes. There are a lot of laws, regulations, and rightfully so, right? You have all those kinds of things. Can you share a case study in the kind of the construction industry with everything that I just described that went from, because you can imagine, like, in a world that doesn't use computers or uses spreadsheets to handle that, it's a nightmare, right?
Yep.
And things could fall apart, and that could mean fines or shutdowns, of projects, to utilizing Salesforce with the right workflow, and how did the before and after change?
Yeah, to your point, construction's probably where we see the largest lag behind adopting technology for things like CRM and project management, et cetera. They're typically ones where we get on the call and if they're using spreadsheets, it's a good thing. Right? A lot of times it's Post-it notes,
Any kind of tech.
whiteboards, right? If we've got anything going on that's not printed out paper, scribbled on notes in a guy's truck somewhere, we're doing something well. So, but that means there's so much room for improvement in that industry, right? We're working with a home builder right now who was literally using write your name on the back of a card to start, right? Like there's so much room for improvement. So here's some of the benefits, right? There are typically multiple systems involved with construction companies like that, because even though their CRM in tech and some stuff around that they're lagging behind, they're all now using some type of construction software, right? And sometimes it's multiple. where you have to like plan out estimates. So it's like estimating software, and then you go into additional software to procure products or whatever it may be. But there's typically multiple systems involved. And then they're using the Post-it notes and spreadsheets as well to manage like the contracts and the sale and that type of thing. So what we're doing right now, we're trying to handle multiple parts of the process in a phased approach. And that's something I'd like to harp on with customers. When you work with companies like Salesforce or any technology that has multiple products, oftentimes you can get big-eyed and see all these cool things you can do and want to do it all at once, right? Take that on the whole product suite and fix all these parts of my business. It's a recipe for failure, trying to do too much at once. You've got to phase it out. So phased approach with this company is we're trying to tackle the first part of the sales process first, which is someone's interested in the home. How do we get all of the details for their interest, and how do we use the technology to work them all the way through contract? Okay. Any of these industries that have these big contracts, right? Buying a home, tens and tens of pages. Finance, insurance, tens and tens of pages. One of the big things that we always push is document generation out of Salesforce. So you capture all of this data in Salesforce, or we capture all of it in a different online form provider like a form stack. And then we build out the documents where we hit a button and it merges into those documents. So much efficiency gets saved with technology like that. First step is getting that data in from the web, period, right? Opposed to handing someone a form and asking them to fill it out, right? We got to start there by getting the data in first from technology perspective, either web form or whatever it may be. And then that document generation side is another big time improver, because you don't have to enter the data multiple times. So we're in that step right now where we get all that information, we're generating the contracts. But then what we're seeing right now in the home industry is people will sign a contract and back out before the home is built, right? Interest rates jumped on them like crazy over the last 6 months, or you get cold feet, or maybe you found a different home that you liked, right? That's a long process in building a home. So what are we doing to ensure that we keep tight with that customer and they're not going to back out of the contract? Well, first, we want to make sure we're measuring why people are backing out so that we can attack those things, right? If we don't have that data, then we're just shooting in the dark anyways. So we're making sure that we're measuring that data so that as over time, we can solve more of these challenges. But off the top of our head, we know that people are backing out oftentimes because there's not a tight enough relationship on what's the status of my build, right? Am I excited about it? If you don't hear about it for a long time, you tend to not get as excited. Like I'm waiting on a vehicle right now, right? That I ordered like a year and a half ago, right? I get real excited when I get a biweekly email where it's like, hey, your order's still on time, right? Hey, here's some cool things to do. Like you can come do a test drive. That's preventing me from not going and buying a new vehicle. Just like what we're trying to do with them as we go through the construction phases. Hey, your foundation's being poured. Hey, look at this cool, someone in the neighborhood did this with their house. Do you want to upgrade? Do you want to do a change order for things like that, right? Keeping those touch points prevalent throughout that 6-month process is extremely important for them not to eventually back out for one of those multitude of reasons. So that's where we're kind of focusing right now. And then the end goal is to have all of those systems integrated from construction, from finance as well, and all of those things. But we're trying to attack that main problem right now.
I want to make 2 points there. I think a lot of industries can learn quite a lot from even a very basic, very commodity type company like Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah.
When you place an order for your pizza, on the app, it tells you, oh, we got your order, we're working on it. We just made the pizza, we're putting it into the oven,
Yep.
right? It's coming out of the oven. It got picked up. The guy is on his way. And then even then it says, oh, the guy is 30 seconds away from you. And then you're ready to open the door and get your pizza, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just learning that lesson when it comes to construction, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if it's a year away for you to get into this brand new home that you bought because you love the model home, you made all of the tweaks about, the doorknobs and this and that and whatever, right? Go through the process, like keep them with you throughout that journey. Not like, Oh, they gave me the contract. All right, see you a year from now. We'll build your house. Go through the process of, oh, all the doorknobs that you had selected, this one, it's already ordered, it's coming in, right?
Yep.
To the foundation is getting poured, the plumbing is getting done. Oh, Anderson renewal and Anderson Windows is coming. That's the only company I know that makes windows, by the way. My knowledge is very limited in the
They've
construction
done
field,
well.
right?
They've done
Good
well.
brand. No, actually, the guy keeps on dropping off their cards in my home, so that's how I know.
There you go.
So they give you that step by step, so that when you are, and maybe during those things, if it's stable enough that you could have, even if it's a raw, because I've been to open houses where the house is still raw, but it is walkable.
Sure.
Why isn't that open to the owners for them to come and walk through the backyard, or even stand in the front yard and look at how the construction is going and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So I think that communication part of that is key in that process to keep them engaged, right? Obviously, I mean, there are external factors. I mean, the year that we are living in right now, in 2023, we have had numerous increases in mortgage rates, and we have had other supply chain issues like logs and doors that are supposed to come from overseas, they're having problems with those kinds of things, right?
Yep.
So there are real world problems that do get in the way. But outside of that, what are you doing? The things that are under your control as the owner of that construction company, what things are you doing to alleviate some of the worries that the people might have? If there is a slippage, I think communication is the biggest thing that you could do to make sure that people are aligned on, okay, you know what, there's a slip and here's the reason why. But you were part of the journey. It's a lot easier to take than not hearing from the construction company for 6 months, and then they drop a bomb on you to tell you that, you know what, we said that the house will be completed by July. Now it's going to be next April.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Communication is, if your company is not focused on communication with the customer and the client, you are so far behind. And that just got accelerated during COVID, right? Because it was an emphasis for everyone, because it had to be. And so if you didn't improve at that point either, you are so far behind now, because the customer is expected to hear from you, whether you're B2C or B2B, doesn't matter. They're expecting communication along the way. And if they don't hear from you, they have one thought, and that's that something's wrong, right? That's why you're not communicating with me. Something is wrong. From a personal perspective, the vast majority of the time we talk to clients that want to switch from their current consulting firm, it's because of poor communication. I mean, before I even get on the call, I can guess that's why they're not happy. So it's something that we harp on with our team and with our clients. It's something that we preach, but from a tactical perspective, build automation around. So that's why we're telling this construction company, having this data in Salesforce, right, where we're tracking the stages and everything in the platform, and the data allows us to trigger automation off of it. We don't have to have someone in the office looking and going and emailing Sally because her home moved to the next phase. We'll just trigger automation off of it, because the construction team did their job and entered that information. So now we can tell her, and you set it up one time and it's done, and it runs for everyone. But those little things around communication matter. They matter a ton.
yeah, I mean, a simple photo on your iPhone about how it's going, I think tells 1,000 words, right?
Yep.
So, like, oh, by the way, we just took a photo of this. This is how the project is coming along. As you can see, the front, the back, the blah blah blah. The bathroom is getting poured in. The basement is finished. Whatever. Oh, great! It's moving along. I can see it. Right. It doesn't have to be even words. You can send me photos. Send it to me over SMS. I get the photo. I look at it. Go like, wow, this is incredible. They're making good progress. Right. And you're so right about communication, especially in professional services. Right. Where if you don't communicate when there is problem, right, then it turns into two things. One, why aren't they communicating? Because they messed up big time, right?
Yep.
Right. So that's one. And the length of time that actually expires that you didn't communicate. Now, what was supposed to be a bad thing, bad news that you would be communicating, the client thinks now you're lying.
Sure.
right? It
Yeah.
transitions very quickly to that.
Yeah.
At first, they were trying to hide it from me. Now they're lying to me. Even though now you're coming back with some sort of solution, now you're trying to cover it up. Now
Yeah.
that's a very formulated lie, you know.
Yeah. And if you think about it from the consumer side, like if you order something online and then 2 days later you get an email that says, hey, sorry, the shipment's been delayed. It's going to get there 2 days later. You're oftentimes not upset about that, right? You
Mm.
understand those things happen. You were communicated with. But if you were expecting it to show up on your door in 5 days and it's the 6th day and you haven't heard anything, you're really upset, right? You think it's lost. It changes the whole tone of how you think of it. It's no different on the business side of things either. It's thought about the exact same way.
So we're talking about communication, right? So I want to tackle communication industry, right?
Sure.
And communication industry is an interesting industry where a lot of other industries have morphed into communication industry. Media companies are communication industry, right?
Yep.
Social media and other types of agencies also call themselves communication industry because they're communicating, whether it's PR or stuff like that. Companies like Cisco, which is a tech company, right? CISCO, not the chicken company, right?
Yeah.
So, or no, not chicken. I think they do something else. SYSCO. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about
Yeah.
Cisco, the equipment company, right?
Yeah.
Networking equipment. They also call themselves communication because they handle network hubs and routers and Wi-Fi and mesh and all sorts of things like that. So when it comes to communication industry, can you share an example of, first of all, what type of a communication industry company is it, and how did transitioning into like a solution and workflows related to like Salesforce help them grow out of their growing pains?
Sure. Can I use telecommunications?
Good.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's go with telecommunications. So we've recently rolled out fairly large product with the telecommunications company on the West Coast. And big thing for them and a lot of other telecommunications company is resellers, right? Resellers of their telecommunication service. So they've got all of these people and they're literally out on the street. They've got sellers out on the street that aren't technically their employees, right? But they're reselling their service. And so what we've rolled out for them, Salesforce's product is called Experience Cloud, but the way to think of it is like a portal, right? That's the word that most people understand is a portal. So the benefit that we have there is that we can build out all this technology on the sales side for them in-house to manage their sales process, manage their sales pipeline. But then using the portal technology, we can expose that to all of these resellers to where they don't have like full access to Salesforce. They're not logging into like that company's Salesforce org, but we just give them their own little window. It's like their own little personal sales hub where they can go through, but we have control over everything that they can do inside of it, right? So we are pushing them down that kind of opportunity sales funnel, those stages that we want them to run through. Anytime they put in a new lead or opportunity, we have immediate access to it where we can work off of that and say, oh, that's either not a good lead, or we can see all of their metrics. But it allows us to enable that kind of external and additional sales force with the technology that we've already built out, and then we've got full control over it. It also allows us to push information for them, right? If something new comes out for the technology, or there's a new spiff, right? Sales contest, for those of you not familiar with the word spiff, we can push all that information out over that portal, right? It's a communication hub. It's a hub for them to monitor sales, all those things. So it's extremely beneficial and allows us to enable thousands of resellers, but working out of our platform. What we have a lot of people do with resellers is they go do all their leads and they're working everything. And then what happens? Every month they send a spreadsheet over. Hey, here are the leads that I'm working on. You have no real-time visibility at all for any of that.
Wow. Yeah. Now I'm going to tackle two industries. I'm going to challenge you with two different industries.
Okay.
Both of them are highly bureaucratic, right?
Sure.
And from my experience, those are the two industries are, typically it's very hard for them to adopt any kind of a new technology, a new platform. It's just because they are just behemoths. And plus, a lot of it has not much to do with the institution that's your client. It has to do with the whole infrastructure around them, right?
Sure.
And one of those industries is like the healthcare industry, right? If you want to sell something into a hospital system, that's very challenging, right? And for them to actually put in those kind of workflows and to do all the things that we have discussed over the past 50 minutes now, right? In other
Yep.
industries, you're faced with another level. Like it's even harder than construction industry, for example, right?
Yep.
To handle insurance companies in the healthcare, right? Insurance companies. Now you're working with private practitioners and people who work for you as doctors and nurses, and you have nurse strikes, doctor strikes, and there's a lot of complications there, right? With unions and such things like that. And for example, if a union is involved and now you have this other system, how does that affect their members, right? Does it mean that they're working less, they're earning less, or if you're teaching them something new, are they earning more, right? There are a
Sure.
lot of complicated questions like that. I'm not saying in this 60-minute interview we'll resolve all of that. I
Right.
might resolve it in future with another guest, take a deep dive into healthcare. But keeping the conversation focused more on like a case study in the healthcare industry, because I'm sure that we have audience members who come from that industry, that to see how does the workflow can be changed using Salesforce in the healthcare industry that would help enhance or to deliver better patient care and better service delivery to an organization like a healthcare company.
Sure. And so let me use an example of that company we're working with. It's a healthcare provider, right? So Salesforce kind of breaks them up into provider, payer, med device. So they're a provider, 14 kind of clinic system up in the Northeast. And this is something that we see with a lot of our clients in the healthcare industry. And you're dead on. Healthcare is one of the hardest places to sell new technology into, right? Lots of hoops to jump through. You're dealing with PHI and HIPAA and all the regulations around that. So there's a lot that goes into it. But again, a lot of areas for improvement, which can be fun and exciting. What we always preach is system of record and system of engagement. All right. So what a lot of people will try to do is use their EHR or EMR data or that platform for everything, right? That's kind of where they start. They just manage everything out of the EMR or EHR. But those systems aren't built for you to really manage the patient experience, right? Those are built for health records and appointment setting and insurance and all those things that you have to deal with. So what we say is leave that as your system of record, right? You need that, but then use something like Salesforce for your system of engagement, because that's a platform built for you to be walking the customer through initial onboarding, right? And sorry, onboarding is a poor choice of words, but the initial analysis of everything going on, if they're going to actually come into your clinic, et cetera, what they need, setting up that initial appointment, right? Taking everything from lead up until that point of, okay, they're going to become a patient. We'll let the EMR handle that side of things at that point. And then I'll just use Salesforce. Salesforce on the other side is handling the follow-ups, right? Did they show up to their appointment? Why not? Let's message them, right? We need them here. Are they on a specific type of health plan? Let's let Salesforce manage that health plan and all those steps that goes through, because we can build in all that automation around it, tracking, the marketing side of things, right? We can do all of it on that side. So what we've done with this company is that we're taking that data from the EMR and pushing it into Salesforce. So then we can action on it with the Salesforce platform. Right. And some of that's a metrics thing too. They're getting a lot of metrics from there. Naturally, the EMR, EHR systems of the world don't have awesome reporting engines, right? They're usually not very customizable. So we push that data into something like Salesforce. We can now see that data how we want to. We can action on it. And then we can use it to build our engagement layer off of. So that's the big thing that we preach on the healthcare side. When we talk to like med device companies and that type of thing, they're mainly just sales teams anyways. They're a little bit easier. They understand the CRM, but that's the big push on the provider side. System of record, system of engagement, let the two do their own thing. They've got to talk to each other for it to be really done correctly. But that's another industry where if your patients aren't being communicated with like overly, then they're going to leave. They're going to go find somewhere else. If your patient portal isn't really strong, if it's not easy to access, they're going to go find somewhere else. There's an extremely high level of expectation around communication from consumers right now in things like the healthcare industry.
It's funny that it's not so funny, but it's funny because every TV sitcom has an episode where one of the lead characters is waiting for the doctor or the hospital to call them back for some test result,
Sure.
whatever that test result is. And it's funny because all the sitcom writers know that's a pain point for every patient in the world, right? When the anxiety that you get when you're not being communicated to, and they turn it into an episode that has to do with one of the main characters that's waiting to hear a DNA test, to any kind of some kind of a disease type of a test results or whatever, to see what they need to do about it and stuff like that. So that has become like a table stakes for every sitcom that's out there. And it has made it, that communication pain point has made it into sitcoms.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. It's true.
So, briefly, I do want to talk about another industry. And if you could give me a quick example or a case study in the education. Education it's another, just like healthcare, education is unless it's a private education company, I'm saying public education that's related to the government, tends to be has its own complications. You have your teachers union, you have bureaucracy around the schools itself. I'm actually I'm part of the board of directors for a charter school where I live, right, to advise them on digital and social marketing. That's what I do as a volunteer. But there is a lot of bureaucracy around education, right? And then when you think about education, how has like the solutions you have implemented using Salesforce help alleviate some of those challenges?
So there's several, and we work with some large public orgs where we're doing things like random stuff, like working with the building out systems so that their professors who are getting patents, we can manage their royalty payments and stuff like that, right? Like some stuff that's out there too. But what we're seeing a lot is student experience through that portal, right? Another use case for the portals, similar to what I was talking about with the resellers in telecommunication, but instead we're repurposing that portal for onboarding experience for things like student information, could be all the way down to like grade information, whatever it may be. But customizing that portals where they have something to go to so they feel connected to that institution is really important, right? And I'm not just talking about like your Blackboards of the world where you're logging into a portal to get, class information. This is university information that we're pushing out there. Those portals have seen a big one that we've seen because now these companies not companies, but these institutions are competing with a lot of this online learning that's come up over the past as well, right? So they want to make sure that they've got a real relationship with the student, all these cool things that they can be doing on campus, the benefit of being on campus opposed to just at home, just checking the box on a diploma. So I know that's a quick example, but that's where we've seen a lot on the education side recently.
So Hunter, you have shared with us like so many rich examples and case studies across so many different industries that we just talked about, so many amazing points and kind of, not only growing pains, but solutions too. But what is your number one, like $100,000 expert insight into because you've been helping companies that are going through their growing pains, and the solution that you usually implement has to do with Salesforce. But what is that expert insight that you can share? What is that one thing that you want those entrepreneurs, whether they're running, small businesses to growing businesses like medium-sized businesses, that they should be aware of, that they can take away from this episode?
So here's what I'll say, and it'll net to 100K because I think it saves you 50 and makes you 50. All right.
I'm willing to bet it's going to be a lot more than
it's
going to have dividends over the years.
Absolutely.
It will be $1 million, not 100,000.
Absolutely. What we see when people implement new technology or need new technology, et cetera, is the executives are involved in the evaluation process. The executives sign the contract, and then they hand it over to the team to figure it out and make it work, right? And it's the absolute wrong way to handle this process. You've got to involve the end users who you're expecting to adopt this technology early on in the process